Hello, I'm Alicia Davis,
And I'm Stacy Watson.
and we are the founders and coaches at Transformative Leadership Strategies, where we do all things that are related to leadership, training, and team building. And you have been working with an organization, Stace, and you were very inspired by an article that one of the leaders sent you that we wanted to share today.
Yeah, it was really, I was so appreciative that she thought to share it with me. And just to give a little context, this organization has really gone through a lot of change, as so many of our client organizations have. And one of the things they're really committed to and focused on is changing the culture within the leadership team.
Mm,
They've had a stressful 3 years, as many of us can relate to. And I think they've kind of developed some habits and patterns that haven't been particularly helpful.
sure.
So, to their credit, they're very intentional in trying to make some change in that regard. And so I think that's why this work that we're doing specifically is why this particular article. So it's from Fortune, and the name of it, and I know we'll link it in our newsletter, is Managers Impact Employees' Mental Health More Than Therapists. And as much as a spouse or partner, here's how bosses can spark change in conversations.
Oh boy.
So I
Right.
know, right? So I don't know about you, but this really resonated for me, just even this idea of how much our mental health is tied to our workplace.
Well, absolutely. Of course. I mean, you and I can think about it from our own experience, and we certainly know from the teams that we work with, and of course, also from the research out there in the world that, individuals in the workplace respond to their managers, right? They leave jobs or they stay in jobs, not always because of the organization, but because of the person who is directly supervising them, right? And we know how important that is, the way that leader is being open or willing to listen to the needs or concerns of their staff, right? Or even, I think that part of what this article talks about is that leaders and organizations, for the most part, want their teams and want their individuals to feel good, right? To feel good about the work they're doing, you know, to feel mentally focused and present. And because of that desire, that sometimes they miss what's actually happening, right?
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And I think, it's always interesting for all of us, whether we are, supervising, managing others or not, to figure out our own boundaries when it comes to sort of sharing how we ourselves are doing. And I think sometimes when leaders don't sort of have some transparency around that, then it inadvertently can send a signal: we don't talk about that here, or this is not a conversation that I'm comfortable having. So I
That's
do
right.
think it's helpful for all of us as leaders to think about, how do we sort of model mental health, even when we aren't feeling particularly mentally healthy, which means that maybe it's saying, I'm having a really hard morning, or I had some tough stuff happen, whether I share it or not, and I might need a minute before I can, kind of join you in this conversation.
That's
Little
right.
things like that. I feel like we forget often how many people are looking at us when we are in leadership roles. And it's kind of a
Mhm.
lot to think about. And it really is important. I mean, we talk about sort of boundaries and balance all the time.
All the time. And to do, we like to talk about them as micro actions, little things, like you're saying, little things matter. And it also just makes me think about, when you as a leader can acknowledge a team, a team member, and maybe you're modeling that, and maybe you've got somebody that you just know something's going on and they're not talking about it, literally just saying, it looks like something is happening for you. If you want to share or talk about it, I'm here. Right. So
Absolutely.
presenting that opportunity, acknowledging that you're seeing them, validating their experience. And another thing that we find that can be really helpful is something that we call purposeful pausing. And
Yes.
in the sense of, like, part of this is about creating the environment of safety, right?
Mhm.
Psychological safety. And sometimes we literally just need to pause and, in a mindful, intentional way. And literally that can be, what, it's kind of like you just said, say, let's just take a minute, 30 seconds. Let's take 2 or 3 deep breaths. Let's
Yeah.
really, focus on what it is that you need in this moment, right?
Mhm.
And so that we're bringing ourselves out of the doing, and just shifting even for a moment into our being, right? And I think
Absolutely.
that can really, little bits at a time, can really make a difference.
Yeah, this is not a workplace example, but even just yesterday, one of my kids was talking about one of her classmates who is really, really sick. It's a terrible, tragic situation. And they have a mutual friend, and she was trying to figure out how to be with this friend.
Mhm.
And, this is, I think, one of the things that's so hard when people are struggling for whatever the reason. Sometimes we don't even know how to show up for another person.
That's right. That's
It
right.
can feel very overwhelming. And I think this happens at work, especially because you want to honor boundaries and you want to be very careful about sort of what you expect people to share or not share. And I think sometimes, and what sort of I offered to her was just being willing to be present with someone, whether you talk about it or not, just to be able to be with someone who is struggling or in a difficult place is a real gift.
That's
And I
right.
think if we can create that at least a little bit in our workplaces, it can just be a real antidote for some of what we read in the article, some of the research where people feel like it's not okay to kind of struggle with your mental health at work.
That's right. That's right. So making it, normalizing, right?
Exactly.
Normalizing everybody's experience. We're all human beings, right?
Absolutely.
So how can we show ourselves just a little bit more kindness and care?
Yeah, for
So we
sure.
would love to hear your thoughts about this topic. Feel free to
Definitely.
reach out to us. Email us info@tlstransforms.com. And thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Thank you.